Are you ready to elevate your fantasy team? Here is Joey the Tooth with your IDP update. If it's not IDP, it's not fantasy football.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the IDP update. I am your host, Joey the Tooth. You can find me on Twitter at Joey the Tooth IDP. I have a very special guest today. We have one of the very best nerds in fantasy football, John Glosser with Dynasty Nerds. John, how you doing, bud?
Pretty good, Joey. How are you?
Freaking living the life, man. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you got going on right now with the Nerds?
I'm the, for people who don't know, I'm the team lead of the IDP team over at Dynasty Nerds. We've really ramped up content this offseason. We're doing IDP rookie profiles, mock drafts as IDP only, as well as Superflex, IDP tight end premium. Joey's nice enough to jump in all of those for me. Really appreciate that.
My pleasure, man.
Yeah, we got a lot of things coming up. Trying to just help the people as much as we can from the IDP side and normalize IDP as much as possible. I know that's kind of a cop-out statement, but that's what what's our goal over there, and we're just constantly trying to do our part, help the community.
Yeah, man, you guys have really been killing it on the player profiles recently. I've just seen a ton of articles coming out from you guys, and I'm loving them too.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, Spides too. You got Spides on the group. He just joined on recently, right? I can plug him a little bit. He's in the league with us.
Love him. Love his writing style. It's pretty unique.
Yeah, I told him that too. I read his last article. I said, "Man, you really get engaged reading your articles, dude. I love it."
Agreed.
Yeah. So, what is your plan for a draft? Like, do you have anything that you want to see happen specifically? Like, is there anybody you want to see go somewhere? Like, is there a specific person, specific spot?
In terms of this draft?
Yeah. Like, is there anybody you have like a draft crush on the IDP side, or are you just kind of?
Yeah. There's a ton of them. I think like underrated. One of my favorite safeties is Nasruddin. I love that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot like Florida State players until they get to the NFL. It's kind of but once he gets in, he's probably the next Derwin James man crush like I've had on him on the field. Not comparing the two, just
right.
The last Florida State player I wasn't allowed to like until he got to the league. But yeah, I'm a big fan of him. This class in general, I mean, obviously we're going to be talking about edges, but a lot of players in this class, I think we don't have that one surefire prospect across all these positions, but we have a lot of guys with upside that a landing spot could really just flip value.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that statement too. Like, you don't have your Nick Bosa, Chase Young type of guy. That's the obvious top IDP pick, but Micah Parsons is there, but his role going forward is kind of up in the air. Like, is he going to be an edge? Is he going to be an inside linebacker? So,
really,
I do think
those guys.
I could see him becoming an edge.
Yeah, it's hard, man, with those guys not playing this year, and I totally understand it. But it stinks as an analyst and a football fan in general to just not see them because like even in the NFL, these guys just constantly progressing. When you don't get to see that, and you're just kind of hanging your hat on 11, 12 at this point, 16 months ago, the last time that they actual football, it's really tough to be like, it's kind of like us pumping up the fact that a quarterback was good 2 years ago.
Right.
Things change so fast. So
yeah, and that actually helped out somebody we're going to be talking about in a little bit, Jaelan Phillips.
Yep.
Like the fact that Rousseau sat out, Phillips came in and was just lights out. So with that said, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back and we'll start with Jayson Oweh just so we can get to the Hurricanes guy in a row at the end.
MyFantasyFootballShirt.com is your place to get top quality fantasy football gear. Get yourself some merch from some of your favorite podcasts. Need some custom shirts for your league? Contact us today. Just go to MyFantasyFootballShirt.com.
All right, welcome back. All right, let's talk a little Jayson Oweh from Penn State. What did you like about his film? What did you like that you saw?
I mean, I think a lot of it I like was the fact that he's willing to, I think, take on those double teams and take on those blocks to let his teammates make plays. But that Penn State program, that strength and conditioning program there is just, I mean, like top notch. So it seems like every player that's coming through there is just, crazy athletic, physical freak. We've seen it over the years from everything from Barkley, to Gross Matos last year. It's upside, upside, upside. When this guy gets on the field, he has like these splash plays. It's hard with Oweh. The production isn't really there. You know, he had 7 of his sacks as a freshman and sophomore, and then 0 this. So almost coming back and maybe not opting out. Maybe he's not even talked about if he doesn't come back and play those 7 games this year when Big Ten starting, almost the latest of anybody. But I think it's just raw is what I see from him, like not technical enough for me to think that. I felt this way about Gross Matos as well, though. I felt like he didn't have the tools. But then, you look in Carolina and he had those couple splash plays. Unfortunately, got hurt, when he a splash game or two. But you see that the upside is there, that he can make those plays, and it's just the consistency level, which obviously all of us struggle with to keep those guys in IDP. It's hard to keep on even a roster. It's hard to keep those guys if they're not consistent. And when do you play them? When do you not play them? So it just seems like he's next in line in terms of that. I don't love a lot about him, to be honest. I know you weren't the biggest fan of him, so
Yeah.
I don't I don't think I see myself like turning you on him, but
Right.
he does. He's physical, if you know what I mean. He's athletic, so I mean, and an edge, so he can grow into that role of being, surprising you and putting up some decent production. But I don't like, as of right now, even if he were to land in a great spot, I don't think that he would move up my edge rankings too much.
Yeah, I agree. He's not very technical. Like you said, he is 100% a work in progress. I mean, he's super athletic and he's very bendy off the edge. Like he's very flexible, but it's more or less he banks everything on his athleticism. So it's like he's not great with his hands. He doesn't really have any counters. It's kind of like first move. If you don't beat him with your athleticism, it's like crap. I'm in a brick wall.
Yeah, there's
So,
no counter to that.
Yeah.
Hey, I can beat you around the edge, and you're like, yeah, but a lot of guys can.
Right, exactly.
What happens when I shut that down, or when I chip you, or whatever it is? It doesn't seem. And I mean, this is honestly probably a common theme in this draft. From what I saw, is there's not a ton of technicality or polished guys that can bull rush you, can speed beat you, can spin move, can swim. They don't have a ton of those guys in this class, and he falls in line with that.
Yeah, he sits right in line with that 100%. Where do you think was the best spot to see him land? I know it's really tough, especially for like a project. Like, how do you project somebody who's going to go into the NFL and be a project?
Yeah, and another thing is he a 3-4? I mean, is he a stand-up guy? I tend to think probably yes, with his ability, his physical and athletic ability. Is maybe somewhere like Denver. Who knows what's going to happen with Von Miller? I don't. It's also pretty tough to judge now with like where these guys are going to go. You know what I mean?
I know.
Is he a day 2 or day 3 pick? I mean, like, I don't foresee him with the depth of edge in this class. I don't see there's any way that he makes it into the second round unless somebody.
No, I don't think so either.
So, I mean, it's like, does he land in somewhere like New England or Miami with those kind of defenses? But then his usage is very limited because how they rotate so much. But that could also be a good thing, and he could turn into something where he's a situational pass rusher as a rookie, and maybe even a second year, and he has a chance to break out. But yeah, there's not a ton of spots where I think, like, kind of as I prefaced before, is that I think his value is going to like increase for me. I mean, I know we're talking 5-7 round rookie drafts. Even in the IDP onlys, he has gone. in the top 2 rounds, but it is still early, and I think a lot of people are just kind of attaching a name value to it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I could honestly see him, depending on where some of the other landing spots are, both offensively and defensively. I could see him possibly even going undrafted. In our so he's a project player, like you said. So I mean, he might surprise some people, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of people. Like you had Clavion Chase on last year, who was, you knew how good he was. You know what I mean? So like the fact that it didn't really matter, you were going to take him in the 4th or 5th round of a rookie draft, and had to wait on him, which a lot of people did. It's just like I don't see that with Oweh. He doesn't have that same kind of like star power.
No, agreed. That's interesting though with say New England or Miami. I could see him kind of with coaching fall into that Kyle Van Noy kind of role. He's kind of inexperienced as is in the edge anyway, but with his athleticism and his ability to rush the passer, if maybe he finds a good coach, maybe they can cater him into that Van Noy type of role.
Yeah, because I mean the size and the athletic ability is like, if someone picks him in the 3rd, 4th, even 5th round, like he's probably going to play. So I mean, even situational, amount of times guys get hurt, and although it sucks for IDP, some of these rotating linebacker teams now, Kansas City is one of them. It's just frustrating, but you could see a guy like that being brought in, even just to rush the passer, or some of those NASCAR packages that Spags likes to run and all that.
Yep. Man, watching Kansas City killed me this year. It's like, all right, you have Damian Wilson and you have Anthony Hitchens, and then you have Willie Gay sitting on the bench. This guy has far more upside. Come on, man.
It's like, those guys are the definition of like just another guy.
Oh my gosh. There's zero coverage ability between the two of them. All right. So let's move on. Let's go to I'm going to go with my least favorite of the 3 Miami guys. We'll work our way up. Quincy Roche. He's my least favorite of 3. What do you like about Roche?
I do like Roche. He's just not sexy, I guess, if you want to say that. He's produced a 4-year starter. I mean, I typically tend to, especially later in rookie drafts, I tend to go after guys like that. I'm a little more trusting of guys who've produced, especially Roche, who's produced in multiple systems.
Right.
Also transferring when I think he would have been probably a 3rd, maybe 4th round pick last year had he come out. But going to a big program, in the ACC, it would have been great to see him play with Rousseau. That would have been awesome. But still, I think he did enough. 30.5 sacks in his career, and I believe he only had 1 season with less than double-digit tackles for a loss, and I think that was 9, and maybe that was his sophomore or junior year, maybe at Temple. Accolades at Temple, but obviously dominating in a lesser competition is probably something that maybe people will hold against him. I don't see him being like this great, IDP asset, but I definitely could see him being maybe like a guy who surprises you a little bit. Could earn his way as a starter. I don't foresee him ever being the best defensive lineman on an NFL team. But I definitely think that he could be a guy that in a system where, a team getting a lot of sacks and all that, I do think he's a player. He's an NFL type player. I think he needs to be a 4-3 defensive end, or kind of moving on from those base packages. But I do think he needs his hand in the ground to be, rushing at the NFL level. I like him. I just don't love him. I don't think he falls into the upside class, part of this class where it's like, oh my God, this guy can be great. But I think he's like a lunch pail, know what you're going to get guy from him, which is possibly, 5 to 7 sacks a season. He's never going to be much more than a 40 tackle guy, 30 to 40 tackle guy, I don't think. But in some of those scorings where sacks are scored higher and you're getting your impact plays and your tackles for a loss, I think he can be a guy that you probably spot start. I don't see him ever being a plug and play.
Right, yeah, I agree. He's got great pass rushing moves, and he obviously can get into the backfield, like you showed with his tackle for the loss. My biggest issue when I watched was he kind of disengages. If the play gets past the line or even goes the other direction, he kind of just like stands up. He's like you never see him in pursuit. I don't know if it's like a mindset thing for him or if it's just like, all right, play's done for me. I honestly don't think it's a motor issue because you see him like when he's engaged, he's persistent.
Yeah.
But it's just like this. Some of the other guys you can see, like a play goes the other direction, they're still moving, they're following while they're going for the ball. He kind of just like, all right, next play.
Yeah, it's almost like and that's why kind of bugged me a little bit that he didn't come out last year, and I have that feeling for a lot of guys in this class on both sides of the ball. But it's almost like he wanted to make sure he came to the ACC to get his name and play against the Trevor Lawrences and the Sam Howells.
Right.
But he wasn't going to give that same effort that he gave at Temple. So that's kind of I do think a little bit of it was, I mean, Miami's defense wasn't very good, especially after the front. So I think that those effort plays and stuff are things that, as when you're breaking down a guy, like those are things you want to see because NFL coaches and GMs are going to see that, and you don't. The worst thing I guess you fear is like him coming in and being a 30 to 40 snap percentage guy on the season, and then now you got the headache of deciding is he gonna play this week? Is he a rotational player? He's not good enough, although he does have an array of pass moves. I don't think he's good enough to be a 30 to 40% snap guy and still produce enough to be a valuable IDP.
Yeah, I agree. I could kind of see him maybe year 2, year 3 in the NFL, maybe blossoming like a Trey Hendrickson kind of role. Still only playing like 50, 55% of snaps, but just like pure pass rushing role. And I think like that's something that's like I think that's Roche's ceiling, honestly, is like a Trey Hendrickson role.
I like that. I mean, rotational, but a guy who if you're gonna ride the hot hand, kind of like Hendrickson got it this year, is he can produce. I don't think he's a practice squad player.
Right. All right. So where do you think Roche would fit in best? Where would you like to see who needs an edge player?
So you're probably
or
looking.
Depth.
Yeah, you're looking probably on the cheaper end. I think Buffalo is a team for sure, and that's also a team that rotates like crazy. It's a lot more old school. I think nobody plays over 65% of the snaps. We saw that with portion of Epinesa this year, and he's kind of a dud for IDP managers. But yeah, that's a guy who I think maybe, blue collar, hardworking, fits that kind of whole Bills thing. Minnesota, maybe that could be a team. I know they do have Wanham there too, who they like, but coming back. Let me see if I can find one more.
I was thinking maybe the Raiders.
Yeah, Raiders.
With Farrell kind of underwhelming a little bit, Crosby taking a step back this year. Even if you just rotate the 3 of them, keep them all fresh.
Yeah, that's a team that needs help on all 3 levels of defense, so I can't disagree there.
Yeah, Gruden, hopefully you know what you're doing, man. All right, let's move on to my second favorite, which you may disagree, but I'm going to go with Rousseau.
Yeah.
What do you like about Rousseau? Which I'm sure is a lot, but
yeah, I love Greg Rousseau just because of his story, and his reasons for sitting out weren't as tied to football as a lot of people think. His mom's a COVID nurse, and he did sit out because he realized he was the cash cow, and his mom not have to do that for the rest of her life, or at least in the short term. Those 1-year wonder guys, it just bothers me so much because when a guy booms like that, even if he comes back and has 7 sacks or 5 sacks, and you've seen an improvement in other areas of his game, it's like that's at least something to telling you that it wasn't a flash in the pan. So him not coming back, although I understood it for the off the field reasons,
I didn't know any of that. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so on the field is I mean, the one thing you just can't teach is size. You know what I mean? We see it with Chase Young. We see it with Myles Garrett, like a guy like that. Like
Yeah.
Rousseau isn't even close to growing into his frame. You know what I
Right.
mean? I'm a guy who has not played defensive line for that long.
Yeah,
So
I read he was a safety before.
yeah.
That's a
So
massive safety.
yeah, and uh, he is a big man who is very athletic,
Mm-hmm.
and and he has a motor too, which is
Mm-hmm.
what I like. Kind of falls in line with a lot of this class. He doesn't have a ton of pass rush moves because he hasn't been playing that long.
Mm-hmm.
So he is a guy as talented as he is, and he is my number one D lineman in terms of D line. If we're not using edge,
Right.
because he'll be D line. I love a lot about him, but I just think he needs to get better, specifically against the run. But obviously the highlight package of him, if you're watching the highlights, like there's not a ton to not like, other
Yeah.
than I think with his hands have to get better. At
Yep.
point back, I definitely agree with that. I think that but from like a feeling that he's like raw and athletic and those kind of things is you see the comps to Danielle Hunter, a guy who maybe people aren't really thinking too much of, but could take the league by storm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of those things are what I'm in line with and what I do love about him. I just, I would have loved to see it on more than, Aaron Maben is the one that bothered me the most is like
Yeah.
just this 1 year flash in the pan. I mean, the sizes aren't comparable or anything like that, but just like that 1 year production and like those things bug me because he hasn't been playing that position that long and who knows, like I don't think he's a 3-4 stand up at all. Like I think
No.
he's a hand in the ground,
I mean, even if he fills in his frame a little bit, he could even fit into the 3-4 on the inside.
yeah,
The D end on the 3-4.
that's a good point to bring up too, because one of the things that I took away from Rousseau, because I was a little on the fence with him too, of like the 1 year production and all that, but his pressure from inside, which Miami doesn't do that a ton with edges, his
Mm-hmm.
inside is he destroyed some pretty decent offensive lines from the interior, and for a guy that big and kind of maybe more slim who hasn't grown into his frame, like those are things that you love to see, you know what I mean, because he is a guy that like JJ Watt in his prime, you're moving him around and allowing him to play some inside and move him outside, and if that guy drops in coverage, there's a when I did the IDP profile, there's a pretty cool play that on read option where it's like he can just destroy that thing with his length. Because
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, with the amount of quarterbacks that are running that now and trying to stretch defenses, to be able to have a guy like that who can cover that amount of ground just because he's so long and lengthy, like those are just our benefits. And to get to the level, the NFL level, with coaching that's teaches him about gap assignments and how to stay in your lane and learning all of these pass rush moves, is the one thing you can't coach is speed and size, and he has those. So
Right.
those are things that what you love about him. What you don't love about him is some of the stuff that he's just, I mean, the 1 year production worries me the most. But I mean, I have seen Rousseau kind of, there's plays where I don't know if that's a Miami thing, a Miami defensive end thing, but a lot of times there's plays that it seems like he takes off.
Mm-hmm.
As 1 year in the position, I guess I can understand that too. Is crashing down on a play super hard, or not running a play down the line to make sure he's there for his teammates, and the list goes on and on. But
Right.
yeah,
So don't let me make you think that I hate Rousseau, because I don't. I think he actually, I think he has the most upside potentially down the road than any edge class in this class. Like his upside, like you said, his size, his athletic ability. He's a little thin for his frame. He's what, 6'7", 250.
yeah,
But I mean, he obviously has room to fill into that frame, and his length is phenomenal. It's just from an IDP standpoint, if I'm going to draft somebody, I'm probably where the spot Russo is going to go. I'm going to take somebody else that's more polished. You know what I mean? I'm going to look for somebody because he's probably going to go in the second round, late second at least. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to grab an edge who's more polished than Russo, just so I can make sure I'm getting production from him. But His length's phenomenal. It's unbelievable. If he can learn how to use his hands, like if he can learn to swim a better swim move, if he can learn how to fight people off his chest, just the fact if he can get his hands on a lineman first, he's got such extension. He's got great length. He could keep linemen off their blocks so easily as long as he can just get his hands into their chest. Especially you add his explosiveness and his size, he could wreak havoc on linemen. So I do like him a lot. I just think he's a big project going in, but the potential return is phenomenal.
Yeah, I think the big thing too is we're so accustomed to Myles Garrett and Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa and Chase Young. You know what I mean? So we want him to be that, right? Because,
Right.
hey, every year we're given this gift at defensive
Right.
end, which is, one of the thinnest positions in IDP fantasy football, regardless. So we're all fighting over him. But
Right.
so I understand the dislike from that point because he's not those guys. He's not. He's just not polished enough. Hasn't been playing long enough. He just, those are just the facts. So I'm with you. You know what I mean? If you're looking at him stacking up against all the edges, like he's not number one. You know what I mean? He doesn't have enough moves. But I see Calais Campbell is a name that people like to tie to him because of the size. But I mean, Calais Campbell's playing at like 290. You know what I mean? Like he's got a long way to go. But Calais Campbell also has a lot of those characteristics of size and being able to play inside and outside and still wreak havoc on an offense. So
yeah, I think that's a great comparison, actually.
Yeah, so I think if he gets to that size where he can bulk up, that would do wonders for him. And unfortunately, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like you're probably looking at year 2 or 3, depending on where he goes. Like I don't see him making it out of the first round, in the NFL draft. So I don't think you're not drafting a first round pick to sit, unless you're the Green Bay Packers. So.
They'll just go and draft a fullback.
But yeah, I mean, I love his upside as do you, because you know what you potentially could be getting there. But like you said, in a rookie draft, when especially one this deep on offense, you're not looking to pass on a usable piece on offense to the upside of a defense. Like how long are you waiting on that guy? I mean, look at Cleveland Farrell. You know what I mean? Like we're heading into year 3 and he has maybe 2 splash games so inconsistent in all those other games that there's a good chance you didn't even play him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I think I had him on a team and he was just sitting on my bench and I was like, oh, well, I wasn't even upset about it. I was like, well, whatever. All right. Where would you like to see him land? Like, where do you think he has the best chance for succeeding?
Yeah, as a kind of same as Roche in terms of I want to see him as a hand in the dirt lineman. I really would like to see him be able to learn from somebody that's established. So I don't know. I'm trying to think of the teams that kind of pick like middle to late that could really use a player. Yeah, it's tough. That's a tough one because I mean, the Bills are another one. If they decide, hey, we want to go, fix this defensive end. I mean, Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison ain't it,
Right.
Yeah, but at the same time, from a rotational point of view, is it the same thing with Epinesa, who they took in the second?
Yeah, and that might actually work well for him being able to learn from Hughes and Addison.
Yeah, and you have Epinesa, who to his own credit, is the power is insane. You know what I mean? So if you bring a guy with the speed and athleticism of Rousseau and then the power of Epinesa on the other side, that could be kind of 2 stud defensive ends in that defense for a while. Who else picks down there?
I was thinking so if he plays 4-3 and Dallas.
Yep.
Playing across from Lawrence. It'd be nice to give DeMarcus Lawrence at least somebody to play across from him. He's had nobody his entire career.
That gets so crowded, and I know Gregory on that contract year, so it's I mean, and those guys have all shown flashes, but yeah, I'm with you in terms of some of those teams. I mean, Philly is also one. that's a guy I could see. They probably pick way too early, and unless they're looking to trade up.
Yeah. Speaking of Green Bay, I wouldn't mind him going to Green Bay playing a 3-4 end.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look in the future, it'd be him and Rashawn Gary playing defensive ends, and then on outside linebackers is the Smiths. I mean, if you really think about that, like the havoc that four could wreak with just with Kenny Clark in the middle, that could get unbelievable. I think we froze. Did I lose you, bud? All right, you there? You back?
Yes, about that.
All right, no worries. That's all right. That's what we got editing for. All right. So I figure that put him on the line, him and Gary as the 3-4 ends, and then you have the Smiths as the outside linebackers, and you have Kenny Clark as the nose tackle. Like, think of what that front line would be.
Yeah. I don't mind that at all. I mean, in terms of learning pass rush moves, I mean, Zadarius Smith there. Gary's learned from him a little bit too, so that would be that would be great for him, because I think the thing I would like the most is just some sort of veteran presence there, and like being able to teach him not only how to be a pro, but also, the things like, hey kid, you're huge. If I had your size and my knowledge, like, so maybe I can mold you into that. So
yeah,
that would be something that I would love to see. I mean, we're talking a year ago, top 5 pick, you know what I mean, with the season he had and everything. So now I think it's probably going to be mid first round, maybe late first round, depending on how teams view him, him sitting out and all that, and no combine, all that kind of stuff. But I think the upside alone will definitely make somebody bite. So
yeah, definitely. All right. So what do you think about Jaelan Phillips?
Jaelan Phillips.
I'm a big fan of Jaelan Phillips.
Yeah, a lot of people are. I think I'm probably the lowest on him in terms of the community, maybe like, not like I don't hate him by any means, but kind of fitting into the 1 year splash thing. And also I didn't know too much until I kind of looked into Jaelan Phillips about the concussion stuff and about hiring from football and all that, and then coming back to just have this almost Rousseau like season. I think he needs to be a stand-up edge. He needs to be a 3-4 rusher. I do love a lot of what he does. I mean, like, when he gets after the quarterback, like, and when he's having those games, like, he puts a hurting on guys.
His swim move is next level. I love that swim move. It blows my mind how well he uses it.
Yeah, Aziz Ojulari is the one dude I think who has the amount of moves that, popping emoji, like, he has those.
He's my one. He's my one.
Same. In terms of edge, like, I just don't think anybody else does it as good as that guy in this class from multiple standpoints. He can be a ton of ways. The thing with Jaelan is that I don't see Jaelan ever beating a offensive tackle with pure power, but I mean, I could see that, for a lot of guys in this class. That swim move, I do like. That is my favorite thing that he does. He's not bad against the run either. So I think, like, that's a thing that really shocked me when I kind of, I watched all the Miami games, but when I really went back and looked, and then I posted a thread, I don't know if you saw that one, of the Virginia Tech game. My favorite game that he had. He kicked number 69's ass that entire game.
The entire game.
Yeah. So, but that was one where if you don't like Jaelan Phillips and you turn that game on, you're just like, yeah, that kid's a player. You know what I mean?
That guy's pretty damn good.
Yeah. I do like a lot that he does. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm overthinking the fact of how committed he is to being a professional football player, and just the fact that he is very good at it. But
Right.
was it something in the Miami system where he wasn't really expected to do much, or was it something where he's just comfortable in Miami? You know what I mean?
Right.
I know he had moved to Miami before before he even really did the transfer, and I know he was, working on some things outside of football. I'm not sure if it was music or producing or something to that, but that's why when I kind of broke him down a little bit, I thought Miami was actually a decent spot because maybe just leaving him home, I guess,
where he's comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to call him system dependent, but he is a guy that I worry about in terms of being this do it all, any scheme type player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what my take on him is early career in college. So he was I think he was the number one ranked recruit when he was coming into college. So obviously he had that pedigree going in, and then he battled what was his ankle injuries, he had a wrist injury, and he had concussions his first few years. And I think being in California, and then he had all the injuries, and he had this stigma of being the number one overall recruit. I think it might have overwhelmed him a bit. And as a young person, when you're getting that much view and you don't perform, it can take a lot out of you. And I can see where if you don't have the mental toughness at that time to deal with it, it can really drive you down a dark hole. So I think the move to get away from UCLA was a great move for him. And like you said, he looked comfortable in Miami. And I think also having Roche on the other side, having somebody who also has a good pass rushing pedigree, so he's not constantly getting doubled, he's not getting all of the attention, really helped him out. And then you just saw him just flourish. What I liked about you said he doesn't have power, and I agree with that. But what he does play with is great leverage. He gets under the pad level of the tackles, and he's long. He's 6'6" himself. So if he can get underneath the pad level, he uses his legs well, and he can get the linemen off their block. I love his swim move. The swim moves that I see it, I'm just like, oh man. But what I really love to see was a game against Clemson, and their running back at the time, I think it was Lynn Dixon. He broke it outside, and he starts breaking down the field, and he tried making one move on a DB, and here in pursuit from behind is Jaelan Phillips, after 25, 30 yards, and he makes the tackle, and you're like, man, where did he come from? And I was like, all right, that guy has some heart to play. That kind of negates my whole thoughts of his early career. It's like, all right, he wants to play. He's trying to make plays.
Yeah, it's a great point too on the stigma of being almost like the Sammy Watkins thing, right? You know what I mean? Like you're crowned while you're a sophomore or junior in high school that you're going to be great, So I think that stigma, and then I believe he only played 10 games at UCLA.
It was 10 games.
That's tough over 2 seasons. Not knowing how much pressure maybe you put on yourself or other people put on you to perform because you are a number one recruit, and then not even being able to perform because you can't stay on the field because of health reasons or whatever was going on, even mentally. His pursuit, I do love too. It's a guy that doesn't often give up on plays. Although I don't like a lot of players in this class, I don't think he has a counter move too much, outside of that swim move.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't give up. You know what I mean? It's not. I think you see a little bit more of that in Roche, kind of your criticism of him of if that move doesn't work, and it's kind of go get him next play. Jaelan Phillips isn't that way. It didn't seem that way this year. It seemed like I'm gonna find a way to get to the ball carrier, even if it's I got to peel back and run 25 yards down the field, catch a green or whatever. So that about him, and so he's probably the most boom bust of these three, I think, because I think you're gonna get a player who is either gonna show out or you're gonna get a guy that maybe an NFL coach doesn't feel like he's ready yet, and he has to sit, but. the amount of nickel that's being played in these crazy packages and trying to match up with 11 players on offense to 11 players on defense is there's a chance he's going to get out there and be able to show his stuff. And I mean, all it's going to take is a game or two, and he'll work his way up and earn some snaps. I mean, you have a ton of teams that need players like him. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to pass on a guy like that because a lot of defenses that could be good on paper, but they can't get after a quarterback. A guy like solve that problem pretty quickly if he can get on the field.
Yep. Yeah, I think I like to stay with the Florida landing spot, Tampa Bay. I mean, was it Barrett and JPP are both free agents this year, I believe.
I think JPP might have another year, but there's definitely a free agent. So
if they don't want to tag him and then they don't want to pony up the cash, I mean, he could land. If he landed there, he could instantly play.
Yeah, agreed. Other teams, I think Atlanta would be another team for Phillips.
Oh gosh, yes, Atlanta needs edge so bad.
Yeah,
so bad.
Atlanta's a team I could see, that him getting early playing time because nothing there. I mean, prior to the JJ Watt signing, I wouldn't think Arizona was a terrible fit.
Right.
I don't foresee them bringing in Reddick, and I mean, bringing back Reddick, and obviously they're gonna need something in terms of pass rushing. Chandler should be back and all that, but I mean, in terms of down defensive linemen, I don't think there was anybody worse than them from an IDP perspective last year. I mean, it was like Zach Allen, and it was
it was real bad, real bad. I think Zach Allen had one good game. Somebody picked him up, and then the next game they were just like, son of a bitch. Yeah, so if you had to rank them, so my rankings of these guys, I'm going Phillips, Rousseau, Roche, and then Oweh. Oweh's way down there.
Yeah.
What about you? Are you the same except you flip flop Phillips and Rousseau, or is
Correct.
Phillips dropping below Roche?
Nope, I'll have it Rousseau, Phillips, Roche, and Oweh is just a good amount down there.
Yeah. No, I don't hate him. I think he's got potential. But that's the thing. He's all potential.
Yeah, so I think like when you're looking at upside, so I think, I mean, you're probably in agreement with this, like so much upside in this class. Not that like surefire, plug him in there, this guy's gonna be great. You know what I mean? But the upside of like Rousseau and Phillips feels safer. And even it feels a little bit safer because you kind of a little bit know what you're gonna get, and at the same time, like you're betting on the size of the player in a way, and
right.
Yeah, so I think Oweh is just, that's tough, man. Like, I mean, he got dealt a raw hand too with them starting so late and no Parsons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a completely changes an entire defense. A guy that can be kind of generational. Generational player could change anything. But coming back and 0 sacks, that's just like, I mean, that's
the thing that worries me about like Penn State. So a lot of people compared Oweh to Gross Matos, who didn't really have like eye-popping numbers with Penn State, but Shaka Toney did. Shaka Toney outproduced both of these guys the past 2 seasons, and Shaka Toney doesn't get talked about at all just because he's a thinner guy. If you watch Toney, his pass rush moves are 10 times better than Oweh. I mean, he's a thinner guy, so it's going to be tough for him. He's going to need to bulk up, but man, I like Toney 10 times better than I like Oweh.
Yeah, I think we like fight that thing too of, it's the Devontae Smith thing, right? Like, he's 160 pounds, and it's like, well, he could bulk up. So
he won the Heisman.
Yeah, so it's like I don't want to fall into that thing too, where you're just like, hey, it's all about the size of the and that. But I feel like it's a little bit easier to bulk up defensively than it is on the offensive side. Like, you got to remember, we're talking a lot of these guys we're talking about are 20, 21, 22 years old. I mean, there's a chance that, they're not even, like he's not even close to the size he probably plays at.
Yeah, the biggest thing you got to worry about when packing on that extra weight is just make sure it doesn't take away any of that explosiveness.
Yep. So, what's your, did you have a favorite game of Rousseau?
Ooh, man. Not offhand. Not that I can think of offhand.
Florida State was fun.
Florida State was good.
They were bad. They're bad. But he ends up making 2 plays from interior that are pretty crazy. One leads to an interception, and the other one, I think, was a straight sack. That was a good one. My favorite Jaelan game was Virginia Tech, but he had moments all over the place that I liked. And Roche, I think, is the one that probably doesn't get talked about enough because of just like I said, I don't think he's the upside guy. I think he's the
but he's consistent.
Yeah, which is one of the things that we're always after in IDP leagues, and I don't think it gets talked about enough in terms of like who are the consistent guys, because we're always chasing that superstar type player. You know what I mean? But superstars, I mean, you look at Joey Bosa, a guy like that. Obviously, he's had his injury problems, but staying on the field is, same thing with Nick Bosa. But you're always looking for that, just the crusher. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, defensive line and edge, it's just not there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you got to really do your homework, or guys. So be interesting. So the latest mock we did, Parsons went in the first.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that in this class?
I'm not taking him in the first. He's probably gonna still be the first linebacker off the board, but I'm looking at him more like late to mid second. There's too much offensive talent in this class for me to jump early in IDP, especially when I'm looking at some of these other linebackers like Nick Bolton. Why am I blanking his name? The kid from Notre Dame.
Oh yeah, JOK.
Yes, thank you. I'm trying to think of in my head, like, all right, how am I going to say his name? Him, yes, JOK. Him, even Chaz Surratt. I mean, guys like that, they very well can come in and have a good impact, and you could probably get them mid to late third, maybe early fourth. So it's like, I don't think I'll jump on Parsons, and I'll wait and grab one of those guys.
I think this is one of those years where IDP from, I would say, like mid third to like fifth is going to like dominate. Dominate a rookie draft where you're just seeing guys fly off the board. Depending on your scoring, even like no position behind in the invitational and stuff like that, you have those, like the points per game. We're always chasing that points per game. So like even like Patrick Queen, I think was early second last year, and in a pretty deep class that and you have Jeremy Chin and Winfield who were 5th round, and then Cam Earl who went undrafted, and those guys are all top 24 DBs. So I'm wondering if a trend starts because of just kind of what we've seen. You know what I mean? So it's such a reactionary game where we see, trends hit, and it's hey, this guy's the next Jeremy Chin, and it's like, hey, there probably isn't a next Jeremy Chin,
right? Exactly. Like everybody's always looking for the next somebody. It's like, well, what if there isn't? Like, why can't he just be himself? He's a very good player. He doesn't have to be Jeremy Chin.
Yeah, I think especially in Superflex and tight end premium, because you're talking 3 tight ends probably going before I take an IDP, and then you're talking probably 4 quarterbacks. So I'm looking at
least maybe even 5, depending on.
That's probably 8 picks out of 12. That no way in the first round. Did take him as a big stack linebackers and dynasty kind of guy. I want Darius Leonard, Devin White, and Roquan Smith type of.
Yep. Yeah, I hear you, man.
I think I'm back.
You good? All right, cool, nice. I'm a big linebacker guy too. I've kind of just recently started the weight a little bit. Like in the league we're doing now, the co-manager league, we just went receiver heavy. It's like I think we have 7 receivers already in 16 rounds.
Yeah, that's a tough one because a lot of it's just so offensive heavy, and I love the idea of it because it's like, hey, we're getting 2 people together who don't really know each other's styles, and then you're putting them in a shark league with a bunch of guys who have tons of different styles, and it's like, hey, who's the better salesman? You know what I mean?
Right. Oh man, Me and Evan, we've sat there on a couple of picks, and we've gone back and forth and talked for like an hour, hour and a half, just like, no, yes, no, 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 yes, yes, yes. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
it's a great dynamic, but it's fun, man. It's fun.
yeah, definitely fun. I'm glad to be part of that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and being 16 team.
Oh, it's a nightmare because you're like, hey, if we pass on this guy, maybe he'll make it back, and it's like, let's be honest, he's not making it back.
If you say that to yourself, just already understand the fact that it's not happening.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just like, you know what? I feel like, I'm way more compromising because, like, in the later rounds is kind of where I do most of my damage, and startups. Like, it'll be a lot easier to recoup this position. I'll find value versus, an offensive position. So I'm like, just do your thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, when we got 3 IDPs through like 11 or 14 rounds, I'm starting to start sweating.
Yeah. Well, so we just picked our 5th IDP, but even like before, I think it was 2 rounds ago, we only had 3. I was like, Evan, man, we got to start picking IDP. We're gonna be barrel picking, and he's like, I think we should probably get another guy here. Like,
Yeah.
I think I was trying to convince him on grabbing DeMarcus Lawrence for like 3 rounds, and like he's kind of like the end of that tier that's left. I was like, if we can get another good defensive lineman, we start 4. There's no flex. It's 4 DL. I was like, we need to have at least 2 good ones, and then we can just kind of we can just stream the other 2.
Who don't play IDP either, like they're not like as familiar with it, don't play it as deep as you and I play it, is it's like, man, like I know the feeling of having to start like Frank Clark every week, and I don't do like, don't make him like my number 2 D end.
No, it hurts. It hurts.
Like
I'm not even a huge DeMarcus Lawrence fan, but it's like, you know what? Where he was like the DL 25. That's pretty darn good value. I'll take it.
Yeah. I think we ended up grabbing Hubbard right before that round.
I was gonna be, it was Hubbard or Lawrence, so you took Hubbard. I was like, well, all right, we'll take Lawrence.
Yeah, so it's those Shark Leagues are fun because you really realize, like, like the advantage you have when maybe you do a startup with people, not as knowledgeable, as you're just like, oh my god, it's not as brutal, like, but you try to bring that mentality in, and you're just like, yeah, dude, like you said, if you're thinking about it, it just just write it off, it's over.
Like if you have a guy you want to get, you just take him. Just take him. Don't think you're getting him.
I think that was the thing too, is like I wanted to kind of let him do his thing on offense, and then like the next thing you know, I'm like, all right, man, like the end of tiers are coming here, and it's like I'm not gonna get stuck. So like, give me Justin Simmons was the end of that top tier safety because we missed out.
Dude, we missed out on all DBs. I think we just drafted our first DB is Marlon Humphrey, which Marlon Humphrey, I mean, he produced a lot last year, but I was like, that's
someone fall to me. I mean, but then you have like last year, you had like Cameron Curl, Rayshon Jenkins, Trey Boston. Those guys were free and in starters nearly every week.
Right.
Those guys to championship.
Guys like Malcolm Butler, 100 tackle corner.
Yeah, I just had that debate about cornerbacks and IDP, and people kind of one of my league mates, kind of bringing them up as that they're the kickers of the IDP side, and I'm like, I don't agree.
What's your scoring you're playing in? Because if you're playing a little more of the like a big play scoring, then cornerbacks play every week.
Yeah, and I just like his kind of thing was like, hey, they can be taken out of fantasy football, and I wouldn't mind. And I'm like, man, like with them, I'm like, you have Teron Johnson had 94 tackles last year. Humphrey had 82. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
8 forced fumbles.
Yeah, like those guys have a place. You know what I mean? I think the biggest argument and kind of where I see their side coming from it is the fact that there's so many. So I kind of compared it to like Chris Thompson of running backs is, as an actual running back, like that guy offers you almost nothing. But I mean, the fact that he has 5 to 7 catches a game, he's usable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
But I get the point because, like, like a guy like Pierre Desir for like the Jets last year, like I rode that guy out. But I think the biggest complaint,
and then they release him.
Yeah, I think the biggest complaint, which I agree with, is like it's the one position in fantasy football that the bad players sometimes score the most points. So that's where I know it's like, as a football fan, yeah, that aggravates me too. That, you know, I mean, your Patrick Petersons and Jalen Ramseys don't score the most.
Right.
Yeah, but eventually one day we'll find a way around that.
We're working on it. Got to be some way to do like coverage stats for like catch rates and shit like that.
Do you have a favorite at every position on the defensive side for rookie?
For rookies, I do. Let's see.
Want to see how close?
All right, are we talking like? Are we gonna do IDL? Oh, let me bring up my rankings real quick. I do have some rankings here.
You can do edge, inside defensive line or D tackle. We'll just keep linebacker as well. And if you want to go corner and safety, that's cool with me.
All right. So IDL, Jake Tufele from USC.
I'm a fan.
I think I like his he's very athletic. I mean, I think he's still a little raw himself, but his athleticism inside being a 305 pounder is fantastic. Edge, Azeez Ojulari. I think we're in agreement there.
Yep.
Let's see, linebacker. Let's see, who's that one? It's actually Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. That's it. Owusu-Koramoah. He's my one. And then it's Parsons and Zayden Collins. Parsons would be one easily for me, but I'm tossed on his role. Same with Collins. Collins could easily go to an edge too. If we're talking corners, I like corners too. My favorite is Caleb Farley.
Okay.
And then safety, Trayvon Moehrig.
Okay.
I do love Paris Ford, though. He's my number 2. I just love his big play outside.
Yeah, Paris Ford has never shied away from hitting a ball carrier. Never letting you know that he shied away from it.
Right, he's 190 pounds.
Yeah. I think inside defensive lineman, Jalen Twyman, I love. I really wish Twyman would have played. I'm a big fan of Marvin Wilson too. Another big guy, just got stuck on a horrific team.
Right.
Edge is Azeez for me easily. Parsons, I still just believe in the talent and the player, so I think he'll be fine. I do love Zayden Collins a lot as well, though. The impact plays. I mean, if he brings that to the NFL, like no matter where. And where we at? Corner. Oh man, I'm so stuck on this one. I love JC Horn. He turned me so much in that Auburn game. Oh my god, dude! Like I was like,
physical.
I knew he was good, right? And then it's like you go up against Seth Williams, and I mean, like you just put on a clinic. You know what I mean? Like so that was just one. Patrick Surtain is just like, I mean, that's another one that I think in terms of IDP, that's probably the guy in terms of, you know, if you're you know, cornerback required or even if you're late and you got extra picks or whatever, that's a guy who I could see making enough plays to turn into a top maybe 15, 20 corner even as a rookie. I think, you get that stigma that like rookies are tested, you know what I mean? When they're league. I mean, AJ Terrell, Jeff Gladney, and Trayvon Jackson.
Jaylon Johnson, too.
Yeah, I think they were all top 24 corners. So, depending on your scoring and stuff. But at safety, Nasruddin, I love. I love so many safeties in this draft. It's just like they're kind of like in the edge conversation with me, where it's like I see so much upside there. And I really wish I can see landing spots because I can like – I can put all the pieces in there. I just did the report on
more than any we've had recently is just like it's so landing spot dependent.
I just did the scouting report on Andre Sisco, and that's another guy that like I mean like the good
is my top 5.
The good is good, but the bad is like, oh my lord. Trevor Lawrence got him on one, which like I'll give that one away because it's Trevor Lawrence, but
Mhm.
oh my God, like, I think I posted it. I think the GIF was in my article. The one that he bites so hard on play action in the Louisville game that, like, I think it's Tutu Atwell just runs right by him. Like, I'm just like a wide open 15 or 20-yard touchdown. I'm like, oh man.
Like, where you go?
That Pittsburgh defense is a fun one. Was a fun one to scout to. All over from 19 to 20. Jalen Twyman's 2019 game against North Carolina, I think he had like 4 sacks. Like
Jesus.
that was the one that I was like, oh my God, like you see some like Warren Sapp type stuff from him in that, and then him not coming back. Rashad Weaver, what do you think of him?
I like Weaver, but he's I like why am I Patrick
Jones.
Jesus.
Patrick Jones.
Thank you. Patrick Jones II. I like him more.
Yeah,
I like his size. Weaver's a guy that you can kind of probably take in like the 6th round of your rookie draft, and you could find yourself a gem. Like he could easily go in and be a nice rotational piece first year. Like he can play. He's going to have playing time first year as long as he lands in a good spot. I mean, Jones is the flashier guy, but Weaver's just as productive.
Love Patrick Jones' motor. That's a guy that he does
Power.
does not give up. He's a guy that's pretty. I would say he's pretty polished in terms of moves.
Mm-hmm.
He's got quite a few, and he plays a little too upright for like my liking right now.
Yeah.
But kind of going back to your Phillips thing, he plays with leverage to even as big as he is. He still finds a way to play with leverage where it just seems like he uses that to his advantage. Great.
Yeah.
Like, you can just imagine at the NFL level with some coaching, like how much better it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was a fun defense. You know, obviously Paris Ford, like that's a fun guy to watch.
Yeah, Paris Ford was one of my favorite to watch this year. Like, I mean, I just watched some of his tape and I was like, all right, this guy's freaking fantastic. I love watching him. But then you see some where he misses some tackles, but it's just technique. That's all it is. He just needs to wrap up instead of trying to lay a hit on somebody.
A lot that's kind of was the common theme that I came to when watching the safety class was poor tackling angles.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are guys that play with so much speed and like play like missiles that like they kind of, you know, do that to themselves, you know, if they would just kind of like, you know, get a base and try to make a tackle, which, you know, they will in the NFL. In the college game, it's a little more fast paced and wide open.
Yeah.
A guy I kind of wish would have came out was Bubba Bolden. I'm not sure that he's gonna have a much better year next year.
Yeah.
I don't know how athletically how he would stack up at the NFL level, but he's another guy who's fun to watch. You know, bloody nose and
yeah, he made plays all over that defense for a defense that desperately needed it in the secondary.
Yeah. So that's a high tackle upside safety. I liked him. Morig I like a lot too. It's
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've heard people saying that they don't see it with him, but how do you feel about Javon Holland? Is he in your top 5?
Yep, he's 4 for me. I like Javon Holland. Yeah. So let's see. So my safety, it went Morig, Ford, Holland. Oh, Holland was 3. Morig, Ford, Holland, Cisco, Nasiruddin. And then Richie Grant was right outside. And I actually like Ardarius Washington, too. He's just so small.
Yeah, that's, I think, kind of the thing that hurts this class a little bit with those safeties is a few undersized guys, too, which hurts. But, yeah. It'll be interesting to see landing spots, see where these guys, you know, and Holland too. I've heard some criticism of him, but I think you're just going to open yourself up to that when you decide to opt out. You know what I mean? So I think it'll be interesting, especially with, like I said, like how the safeties kind of stacked up last year. You got some instant rookie production from some guys. It'll be interesting to see if more teams go that way. I think I quoted or posted a tweet in the Cisco article about someone saying that they agree with an NFL defensive coordinator they talked to is, you know, everyone needs a free safety or a deep safety that they're, you know, I mean, the teams that don't have them want them so bad, and the teams that do have them, you know, have such a luxury. So, you know, that's kind of interesting because there is some of those guys in this class, you know what I mean? So it'll be interesting. People people kind of viewed Winfield as that way a little bit, and he ended up turning around a great season. So,
Oh yeah.
do you see any regression with any of those guys next year? I mean, obviously there's going to be a bit here. Anybody you think kind of just crash?
I think they'll be fine. Honestly, what I think is actually progression is Ashton Davis. I think Ashton Davis is going to go into the Jets and have a big role, and he actually came on real strong at the end of last year. And I was a big fan of Ashton Davis going in. I actually had him ranked above Jeremy Chin just because I didn't know Chin that well. Like Southern Illinois, I mean, his tape was there, but I don't know. There's something about Chin watching him that made me a little nervous. But I loved watching Ashton Davis' speed. He could be that deep safety guy, but he even came in and played with the Jets and almost played like a 2 safety role. So it was like, I don't know. I think Davis next year is a great option.
Yep. I think a lot of that too is learning the pro game and the coverages. Like I've recently kind of like took like a deep dive into like what goes into calling defenses and kind of like understanding them a lot more. Obviously, I have most of the basic concepts down, but like
Right.
the roles of what is asked of a safety. So when you're an everyday football fan and you're Monday morning quarterbacking from the couch, you can't say, oh, this guy sucks. You know what I mean? You got burned. And it's like, you don't understand the amount of the level of like what he's trying to do. He's asked to cover, 3 different levels of the field. You know what I mean? He's a human. If he doesn't understand it or, mistake, like the difference between an incompletion or a touchdown.
That's the coolest part about IDP. I feel like it's like the deeper you get into it, then you start understanding coverages, you start understanding different defenses, different sets. It's like you just learn about football. It's like that's what I love about IDP.
It's a lot more than this guy run a slant pattern or this guy ran a 9 route. You know what I mean? Like, or the fact that hey, he's just better than the guy that's trying to cover him or trying to whatever. So it's been interesting and kind of fun and it's really like helped me in my scouting too, because I mean I'm just as good as a lot of the guys in there who can you pick off those IDPs late, which is the name of the game, because then you turn a Jeremy Chin into maybe a first round pick the next year, or you turn him into a championship, which is best case scenario.
Exactly.
And definitely not going to fault you on Chin. You know what I mean? I think a lot of us were that way. You know what I mean? That we're just, when you saw the Panthers trade up for him, I think that was kind of, you're like, oh, yeah, that's great.
Once they saw a landing spot, I was like, okay, Chin's going to kind of, because if he can fill that Eric Reed role that Eric Reed did the previous year, I was like, okay.
The vacated IDP production there was, I mean, insane between him. So, and then I know a lot of people were on the Tahir Whitehead bandwagon. That one just didn't turn out.
No. I remember somebody saying that they'd rather have Tahir Whitehead over Deion Jones, and I was like,
oof. Yeah, it's gonna. There's some good IDPs in this class. I know we temper expectations as we should. In terms of offense versus defense, you're not really gonna oftentimes get those IDP producers. But I mean, we had a good amount this year.
Yeah, definitely. I enjoyed this class very well. I did well in most of my rookie drafts. I think my most owned is Ashton Davis, so that's why I'm kind of hoping for progression this year. But I honestly do think he will progress.
Yep, I'd like to see one of these safeties in this draft, especially the ones that can kind of play deeper safety. The Raiders are another spot where I would really like to go after safety. And
stop playing Eric Harris.
Yeah, and hopefully Jonathan Abram could play a full season, because that's another guy that's insanely fun to watch. Really wish he wasn't with the Raiders.
My brother's a Raiders fan too. He's gonna watch this and be like, "Dude, you guys are just assholes."
Yeah, they beat the Chiefs and showed the blueprint, I guess.
That's right. What was it? Somebody said the Raiders beat the Chiefs. The Patriots beat. No, well, it was all right. So it was the Jets beat the Patriots beat the Raiders, but the Raiders beat the Chiefs. So the Jets are the best team in football. It's like, okay.
It's like MMA math, where people are like, "Hey, this guy, but this guy lost to this guy, so this guy's the champion." You're like,
right? Oh, okay, sure. Well, I want to thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna cut it short here. I'd actually love to get you back on for another show soon and maybe talk some linebackers.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
This is super easy and painless. So,
Yeah, and I think I have Eric too, another one of the nerds. He wants to come on and talk some linebackers. So maybe if I can get the three of us on at once, that'd be great.
Yeah, love Eric. He's great over there. Everything he does all over.
Mm-hmm.
He's great.
Yeah.
Kyle, he's another great guy that you guys have. And
Yeah, I love Kyle.
yeah, so I would love to do that, man. Like anytime.
Cool.
I'm usually available, so let's just set something up, and maybe when we get a few more rounds into this Shark League, so we can come on, I'll commiserate a little bit.
Man, it's hurting my soul. Well, why don't you tell everybody what you've been up to again one more time? Tell us where we can find you, because I don't think we gave you a Twitter handle yet. So make sure everybody knows where they can find you on Twitter, and then anything that you have in the future that you may have coming up.
Appreciate that. At Glosser13 on Twitter. Dynasty Nerds we're actually going to break up our 32 teams in 32 days this year, and IDP will be separate from that because I know a lot of those articles can get a little long when we're talking all offense, and defense kind of just gets tossed in a little bit at the end. So the IDP team there is actually going to take on all 32 teams from an IDP perspective. So that'll be kind of something new that we're going to roll out. The IDP profiles, we have all of the players broke down into tiers. We're looking to close out the tier ones here pretty soon. I think we're looking to try to get 30 players, 24 to 30 players done. So everyone has that point of reference in their rookie drafts. I can't stress enough how important it is to at least know the names of these rookies when you're drafting. You're not just, hitting Google to, oh, this guy was picked in the 5th round in the NFL draft, I'll just take him, not knowing anything. So, yeah, we're doing work over there at Dynasty Nerds, and we from the IDP side, we have video content as well, rankings.
Which I do love your video content, man. Sometimes when I'm watching tape and all of a sudden a Nerds one comes up, I'm like, yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really would like the film room is so great for the offensive side. I really, really want to push to be able to do a film room, an IDP film room. We can get a couple games and cut those up for people. I mean, I think it would be amazing. I think a lot of people.
We just started doing that this season at IDP, guys. We just started cutting out tape. So I think for next season, for next draft, we're going to have – it'll be offense and defense, but it's not going to be cut up IDP, and it's going to be this offense versus defense, and you can watch both.
Yeah, I love that. Player specific is a little tougher for the defensive side, and lights and stuff like that. But that is like the next tool I think that the community would really
be huge. That would be huge.
And knowing the names and all that. Also on the Devy side, we'll be looking to dive into some Devy IDP over at Dynasty Nerds.
Yeah, you guys just got somebody new in the squad, right?
Yep. So we're actually going to be doing. Eric and myself and Dwight Peebles, who he's a big part of the offensive Devy side. He will be helping us develop some rankings and as well as some spotlight series. It's tougher on the defensive side to project, linebackers 4 years out, number one recruits. Sometimes they get, just lost a lot more than even like Jaelan Phillips and stuff like that. Like, sometimes a guy could be the number one recruit and before you know it, you don't hear about him for a couple of years. So, but yeah, we'll be digging into that, much like you guys are over there. We're looking to be a one-stop shop for IDP at Dynasty Nerds as well, and try to match the efforts of the offensive side. Although we got a lot of work ahead of us, we're excited about that.
Yep. Yeah, it's all fun, man. Between the two sites, man, I feel like we've got so much content that just constantly goes out. So if you're not following John, make sure you are at Glosser13. Make sure you go check out the Dynasty Nerds. Make sure you check out us at IDP, guys. And I'd love to have you on again, man. And I'm glad we're working together. It's what our IDP community needs. We need two big outfits just like working together to make it bigger. You know what I mean? Make a big picture.
Yeah, it's all about supporting each other in everything that we do. I know there was a lot of, kind of negativity over the past, week or 2 weeks or whatever on Twitter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That stuff's never going to go away, unfortunately.
No.
In terms of like working together and supporting each other, you don't have to retweet or like every single person's article. Sometimes, we have regular lives. That's not going to happen, but
Right.
being able to support each other and really be able to, like, moments like this, to come on with somebody that you really enjoy talking to and you really like and can match football with. That's what getting into this community was all about for me.
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate it very, very much, sir.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you for coming on, and I'll definitely be in touch, everybody. John Glosser.
Thank you.
All right.